You are not alone in your battle, God is in the fire with you. You may think He's far from you because the pain is unbearable, because the walls are closing in, because the darkness seems to mock your prayers. But let me tell you something that will change your life if you grasp it with your soul. God does not leave His children in the furnace. He walks in it with them. When the 3 men stood before the king of Babylon and refused to bow, they were not rescued from the fire, they were met inside the fire by one whose presence turned flames into glory. Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire? The king asked. But I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and the 4th is like the Son of God. Daniel 3:24-25. The fire you are in right now, whether it is the fire of failure, shame, loss, temptation, confusion, or fear, is not proof of God's absence. It is the stage of His appearing. You ask, where is God? And I answer, He is closer than He ever was before. He is in the very place you thought He'd never be. He is not pacing outside your problem waiting for you to solve it. He is already inside it, fighting for your deliverance from within. Let me press this deeper into your heart. Do you think God's power is only proven when He removes your problems? No, His glory is revealed when He brings you through them. If God always snatched His people from the edge, where would be the courage? Where would be the faith? When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned. Isaiah 43:2. He didn't say if you pass through. He said when, which means He expects the storm. He expects the fire. And He already promised to walk through it with you. But most of us, instead of looking for His presence in the fire, are looking for an escape from it. That's why we miss Him. That's why we break down. That's why we feel abandoned, because our eyes are on the door, not on the 4th man walking beside us. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23:4. David didn't fear because the valley was shallow. He didn't fear because the valley disappeared. He didn't fear because God was there. And if God is there, then fear must flee. Despair must fall. Lies must die. God's presence changes everything. Now hear me clearly. I am not saying your battle is small. I am not minimizing the anguish, the tears, the questions that keep you awake. I am telling you God is bigger than them. I am telling you that your suffering is not senseless. I am telling you that if you stop running, if you stop begging for escape, and instead lift your eyes in the middle of the furnace, you will find Him looking back at you, with fire in His eyes and power in His hands. Do not measure God's love by the size of your storm. Measure it by the fact that He entered your storm to be with you. God could have kept Joseph out of the pit, out of the prison, but He had to form him into a ruler inside the pain. He could have kept Jesus off the cross, but through the cross, salvation was birthed. What if what you're calling a disaster is actually a delivery room? What if what you're calling a breakdown is really the birthplace of your becoming? For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. 2 Corinthians 4:17. Did you catch that? The fire is working for you. The affliction is not against you, it's building something eternal in you. A fire that refines, a hunger that prays, a strength that bleeds but does not bow. So stop asking God to take away the fire. Ask Him to show you who He is in it. Ask Him to open your eyes like He did for the servant of Elisha, who saw chariots of fire all around the mountain. You're not outnumbered. You're not forsaken. You're not a victim. You are being refined, not destroyed. You are being rebuilt, not rejected. God is not distant. He is not hiding. He is not ignoring your cries. He is the one whispering back, even now, fear not, for I am with you. Isaiah 41:10. And if He is with you, who can be against you? Who can silence the word that speaks stars into being? Who can cancel the plans of the one who bends history like a river toward His purpose? He fights for you not from a distance, but from the battlefield of your own soul. The moment you stop running is the moment you start living. Some of you have been running for so long, you've forgotten what it means to be still. You've run from pain. You've run from truth. You've run from conviction. And worst of all, you've run from the voice of God. But the ache in your chest hasn't left. The silence at night still haunts you. And I want to tell you why, because you cannot outrun the one who created you. You cannot outrun His love, His pursuit, or His calling. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? Psalm 139:7. You think if you stay busy enough, loud enough, fast enough, maybe that whisper from heaven will disappear. Maybe the guilt will fade. Maybe the emptiness will stop echoing. But it won't. Not because God wants to torment you, but because He refuses to let you die in hiding. You weren't created to survive on distractions. You were created to live in divine purpose. And no matter how far you've run, God is not behind you. He's right in front of you, waiting for you to stop and finally turn your face toward His. Look at the story of Jonah. A man who heard the voice of God, who knew the mission, who understood the call, and still ran. Not because he didn't believe God existed, but because he couldn't bear to face what obedience would cost. That's where many of you are right now. You don't need more evidence that God is real, you need the courage to surrender. And the irony is, it was only after Jonah stopped running, after he was thrown into the storm, swallowed by the depths, stripped of all escape routes, that he found peace. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer went up to you, into your holy temple. Jonah 2:7. Running is exhausting. It might feel powerful at first, but eventually your legs give out, your excuses collapse, and your soul cries for rest. Real life, real, deep, unshakable life, begins the moment you turn around. The moment you say, I've had enough of building walls between me and God. I've had enough of pretending. I've had enough of running from the very voice that gives me breath. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. That isn't just an invitation to the tired body. That's a rescue call for the fugitive soul. Do you know what happens when you stop running? You finally hear the voice behind you. You hear Him say, this is the way, walk in it. Isaiah 30:21. You stop living in fear of the past and start living in power toward your future. You stop defining yourself by your failures and start being transformed by His mercy. The moment you stop running is not the end of your story, it's the beginning. Because when you stop running, you face what you've been avoiding. And when you face what you've been avoiding, God begins to heal it. Think of the prodigal son. He didn't return home with dignity. He didn't walk in pride. He came back broken, ashamed, rehearsing his apology. But his father didn't even let him finish his speech. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son. Luke 15:20. Did you catch that? The father ran. The same feet that once carried you away in rebellion will carry you back in redemption. And when you stop running, you'll find God is the one running toward you. But don't let the beauty of that truth lull you into delay. Every step you take away from obedience is a step deeper into your own prison. You think you're free because you're unaccountable. But freedom without surrender is just bondage in disguise. Your rebellion is not strength, it's slowly killing you. Your silence is not peace, it's spiritual suffocation. And God, in His fierce mercy, will let everything fall apart around you just to save your soul. That's why some of you are here, right now, at this exact moment, not by accident, but by divine design. Because God has blocked every exit. He has shut every door you used to run through. The people who once enabled your avoidance have grown silent. The distractions don't numb you like they used to. Why? Because He's calling you home. Because the fight is not outside you, it's in your will. Will you keep running, or will you surrender? You may think you need to clean yourself up before you come back. But that's a lie from the pit of hell. God doesn't ask for your perfection, He asks for your return. Now return to the Lord your God, for He is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in love. Joel 2:13. What more do you need to hear? He is not chasing you with wrath, He is chasing you with redemption. And hear me clearly, the longer you run, the harder your heart becomes. The easier it is to silence the truth. But that numbness is not healing, it's dying. And God did not call you to die in your lies. He called you to live in His truth. The moment you stop running is the moment you start living, because God meets you in that stillness, not with condemnation, but with resurrection power. You say you want change, but have you truly counted the cost? Everyone wants transformation until it demands sacrifice. You pray for breakthrough, but shrink at obedience. You cry for purpose, but resist the pruning. You see, true transformation does not come with comfort, it comes with surrender. And until your heart is laid bare before God, until everything false is burned away, you will keep circling the same mountain of mediocrity. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone, but if it dies, it bears much fruit. John 12:24. Are you willing to die to yourself so you can truly live? The hardest battle is not external, it's within. That is where the war rages. In the secret place where nobody claps for you. Where nobody sees your tears. Where you wrestle with the voice of the flesh and the pull of the spirit. That's the battlefield where destinies are either born or buried. And the truth is, until you allow God to break the shell of your pride, your fear, your rebellion, you will never taste the fruit of transformation. Look at Jacob, a deceiver, a manipulator, a man who wrestled his whole life, until one night, by a river, everything changed. He was alone, no schemes left, no disguises, just him and God, and he fought, not with fists, but with his will. He wrestled until daybreak. And finally, in exhaustion, he said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Genesis 32:26. That's when God changed his name. From Jacob, the deceiver, to Israel, the one who wrestled with God and prevailed. Do you understand the depth of that moment? Transformation begins not when you win the fight, but when you refuse to let go of God, even when you're broken. And God did break him. He touched his hip and made him limp. Jacob would never walk the same again. That limp wasn't a punishment. It was a mark of transformation. And some of you, right now, are in the middle of your own wrestling. Life has hit you hard. You're limping. You feel like everything is falling apart. But I ask you, could it be that God is not punishing you, but reshaping you? Could it be that what you call loss is heaven's chisel, carving out the real you? Because transformation is violent to the flesh. It rips away the idols you've worshipped in secret. It exposes your hidden pride. It confronts the compromise you've normalized. It doesn't ask for a part of your life, it demands all of it. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. That is not a poetic suggestion. That is a divine command. Stop trying to add God to your life like a decoration. He's not interested in enhancing your comfort. He's interested in crucifying your old nature. And yes, it will hurt. But the pain of transformation is not the pain of destruction, it's the pain of birth. Something must die so something holy can rise. And it will cost you everything you were never meant to be. Your false identity, your counterfeit strength, your obsession with control, that's what God tears down. Because he loves you too much to let you live as a shadow of who he created you to be. Don't think the fire you're walking through is strange. You prayed for purpose. You asked for his will. And now he's answering, just not in the way you expected. Behold, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tried you in the furnace of affliction. Isaiah 48:10. He's burning away the unnecessary. He's removing the crutches you leaned on for too long. He's silencing the lies that defined you. And the more you resist, the longer it takes. But if you yield, if you surrender, something divine will emerge from the ashes. Think of Peter. Loud, impulsive, self-reliant. He swore loyalty to Jesus, but when the fire came, he denied him 3 times. In that moment, Peter didn't just fail, he was exposed. But that exposure was necessary. Because after the resurrection, Jesus found him. Not to shame him, but to restore him. Simon, son of John, do you love me? John 21:17. 3 times he asked, not to condemn, but to resurrect. That's transformation. Not perfection, but restoration. A broken man called to build the church. A failure turned into a foundation. So stop hiding your wounds. Stop pretending you're already there. God is not looking for the polished version of you. He's looking for the real you, the one who knows you can't do this without him. The one who has been to the bottom and still says, God, I'm yours. That's when heaven opens. That's when chains fall. That's when transformation becomes reality. You want a new life. Then you must give up the one you've been clinging to. You must kneel at the altar of surrender and say, not my will, but yours be done. That is where the fire falls. That is where transformation begins. And once it starts, nothing will ever be the same again. You were not born to live in the shallow end of life. You were not created to merely survive, to drift through your days hoping that something will change. You were fashioned by the hand of God to go deep, to move beyond surface-level faith, to know him intimately, and to reflect his glory in the darkest corners of this world. But you cannot go deep if you are still chained to shallow things. You cannot carry fire if you are full of compromise. The deeper you want to go with God, the more of yourself you must be willing to leave behind. There comes a moment in every life when God calls you into the deep, and it's terrifying. Because the deep is not safe. It's not predictable. It's not easy. But it is necessary. Deep calls unto deep at the noise of your waterfalls. All your waves and billows have gone over me. Psalm 42:7. This is not the voice of a man in comfort. This is the cry of a soul being pulled into something far greater than himself. Into the unknown. Into the untamed glory of God. And when he calls you deeper, he will strip away every illusion of control. Because you cannot navigate the deep on your own strength. In the shallows, you could fake it. You could rely on talent, charm, intellect. But in the deep, those things fail. Only raw surrender survives there. That's why some never answer the call. Because the deep demands death to ego. It requires a brutal honesty that few are willing to face. But for those who dare, for those who say, yes, to the depths of God, the reward is beyond comprehension. Look at the prophet Isaiah. He was already in the temple. Already religious. Already respected. But it wasn't until he saw the Lord, high and lifted up, that he cried out, "Woe is me! For I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips." Isaiah 6:5. Do you see what happened? He was undone. That's what the deep does. It unmakes you before it remakes you. It exposes your hidden fault lines. It peels back the veneer of religion and reveals the trembling, desperate human underneath. And in that place of holy fear, God begins to build something eternal. The church today has too many people playing it safe in ankle-deep waters. They want a taste of God, but not the full flood. They want to be moved, but not changed. They want revival, but not repentance. But I tell you now, the time for shallow faith is over. God is looking for those who will launch out into the deep, who will leave the safety of the shore and risk everything for his presence. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." Luke 5:4. It was in the deep that the miracle came. It was in the deep that Peter's net broke from abundance. The shallow could not contain what God wanted to give. But going deeper also means facing the deep things within you. Your doubts, your wounds, your secret sins, your unhealed grief. God doesn't avoid those places, he steps into them. He walks right into the tombs you've sealed off and says, "Lazarus, come forth." John 11:43. He doesn't speak to your mask, he speaks to the dead thing behind it. Because he didn't come to decorate your tomb. He came to empty it. You see, the deep is not just about mystery, it's about intimacy. God doesn't want to impress you. He wants to transform you. And transformation happens when the light pierces the hidden places. When your prayers shift from polished monologues to guttural cries. When you stop talking about God and start encountering him in the fiery depths of your own soul. The secret of the Lord is with those who fear him, and he will show them his covenant. Psalm 25:14. The secret things are not for the crowd, they're for the hungry. For the broken, for the desperate, and maybe that's why he's allowed the storm to rise in your life. Because storms push us deeper. When the wind howls and the boat rocks and everything familiar starts sinking, that's when we realize we were never meant to stay in the boat. That's when we hear Jesus say, "Come," and like Peter, we step out on the water, trembling, unsure, but desperate to be near him. And yes, we may start to sink. But even then, his hand is right there. Immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him. Matthew 14:31. So I ask you now, how long will you linger in the shallow? How long will you play it safe, avoiding the depths where true life is found? God is calling you, not to impress him, not to perform, but to dive. To abandon your shallow comforts and plunge into the depths of his will. There is a version of you that only emerges in the deep. A fire that only ignites when everything else is stripped away. And if you will go there, if you will trust him, you will never be the same. There's a war happening in your soul right now, and it's not silent. It's not subtle, it's violent, and it's real. You feel it every time you say you'll change, but then fall again. You feel it every time you hear the voice of truth, but you still listen to the voice of shame. You feel it when your heart longs to believe that you are free, but your habits still feel like chains. This is not a metaphor. This is not poetry. This is a battlefield, and your eternity is what's at stake. But listen to me, this battle is not yours to fight alone. You were never meant to conquer your demons by willpower. You were never meant to defeat hell with discipline alone. That's why the gospel is not self-help, it is a rescue mission. A divine intervention, a supernatural act of war on your behalf. God is fighting for you right now. The Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. He is not a spectator. He is not distant. He is in the fire with you. In the night with you. In the guilt. In the addiction. In the mess. He's never looked away, not once. And you might ask, if he's fighting for me, why do I still feel so defeated? The answer is this, because you haven't surrendered the battlefield. You've invited him in as a consultant, not a commander. You want his help, but not his authority. You want deliverance, but on your terms. And that's not how victory works. The power of God is released not when we ask him to join our plan, but when we lay our lives at his feet and say, not my will, but yours be done. Luke 22:42. There's something supernatural that happens when you stop fighting against God and start fighting with him. When you stop resisting conviction and start yielding to it. When you stop excusing the sin and start exposing it. That's when the tide turns. That's when chains break. That's when the enemy panics. Because darkness can't stand in a life fully surrendered to light. Submit yourselves, then, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. James 4:7. And I want you to understand, the devil is not afraid of your potential. He's afraid of your obedience. You can have dreams, goals, talent, passion, but if you won't bow to God, none of it has power. Hell doesn't tremble when you sing a worship song. Hell trembles when you live one. When your life becomes an altar. When your heart becomes a war cry. When your soul becomes a battlefield of praise. That's when demons scatter. That's when heaven stands to attention. But don't romanticize warfare. It's bloody. It's exhausting. It will break you before it builds you. Because you will not come out of this battle with the same face. You will come out limping like Jacob, after wrestling with God. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. Genesis 32:28. That limp. It's not weakness, it's proof. Proof that you met God in the dark and didn't let go. And some of you are in that night right now. You're wrestling, crying, failing, rising, falling again. But don't let go. Don't stop. Don't believe the lie that you've gone too far, failed too much, lost your chance. That's the voice of your enemy, not your Father. Your Father says, even to your old age and gray hairs I am he who will sustain you. I have made you and I will carry you, I will sustain you and I will rescue you. Isaiah 46:4. You must stop treating grace like it's fragile. Grace is not delicate, it's a raging river. It can carry your worst days. It can flood every wound. It can uproot generational curses. Grace is not a pat on the back, it's a weapon. And when wielded by the Spirit of God, it destroys every stronghold, every lie, every chain, every prison door. You don't need more time. You don't need more chances. You need to fall on your face and cry out, God, I cannot fight this alone. And heaven will respond, because he's already fighting. Do you hear me? God is fighting for your marriage, your mind, your purity, your purpose. He's interceding for you through Christ even when you don't know what to pray. Christ Jesus who died, more than that, who was raised to life, is at the right hand of God and is also interceding for us. Romans 8:34. The cross wasn't a beginning, it was a victory cry. And the empty tomb is proof that death itself lost its grip. So now it's your turn. Stand up, not in pride, in surrender. Lift your hands, not in defeat, in desperation. Speak the truth, not because you're perfect, but because you believe in the one who is. Take back the ground the enemy stole. Step into your calling like it's already finished, because on the cross, it was. The war is not won by the strong. It's won by the surrendered. And God is fighting for you, even now. There comes a moment when God will disrupt everything you've built just to reveal what he wants to build in you. Not because he delights in tearing down, but because he refuses to let you live behind illusions. Some of you have been clinging to dreams he never gave you, relationships he never blessed, and versions of yourself he never designed. And then the shaking comes. The collapse. The silence. And in that void, when everything familiar has crumbled, you finally hear the whisper you've been ignoring. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. You see, disruption is not the enemy, it is often the mercy of God. What if the worst thing that happened to you wasn't punishment but preparation? What if the thing you're calling failure is really the hand of God removing the idols you didn't know you built? We pray for transformation, but then we fight the tools God uses to make it happen. Because His methods don't look like ours. We want comfort, He brings fire. We want clarity, He brings silence. We want a ladder, and He hands us a cross. That's why the path to your purpose is never paved with applause. It's marked with pain, with confusion, with betrayal, and with divine encounters in lonely places. God does not raise His warriors in the spotlight. He hides them. He crushes them. He breaks them apart so completely that when they rise, no part of them is left untouched by His fire. But He knows the way that I take. When He has tested me, I will come forth as gold. Job 23:10. The wilderness is not punishment. It is the training ground for destiny. It's where voices die and only God's voice remains. It's where the appetite for praise is starved until only hunger for obedience remains. It's where you stop begging for the crown and start carrying the cross. And in that hidden place, you finally stop trying to prove yourself and begin to lose yourself in Him. But hear this, the enemy will always try to convince you that your wilderness means God has abandoned you. That because you feel nothing, God must be doing nothing. But that is a lie from the pit of hell. Silence is not absence. Delay is not denial. And pruning is not rejection, it is proof that you are growing. Every branch that does bear fruit He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. John 15:2. So don't curse the season you're in. Don't despise the breaking. Don't resist the refinement. God is building something inside of you that can't be shaken. But before He gives you the platform, He will burn away your pride. Before He trusts you with influence, He will empty you of ambition. Before He fills your hands with miracles, He will fill your soul with surrender. Because you are not called to be impressive, you are called to be obedient. And that obedience must be total, not partial, not conditional. God is not asking for one room in your house, He wants the deed. Every room, every corner, every secret, every motive. This is not a renovation. It is demolition. It is death to self. And that death is where true power begins. I have been crucified with Christ and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. Galatians 2:20. You cannot carry resurrection power until you have laid in a grave. But oh, what joy comes on the other side of surrender. Not the shallow kind of happiness the world sells, but the unshakable, unspeakable joy that only comes from being filled with the Spirit of God. Not a life free from storms, but a life that sleeps through storms because Christ is in the boat. Not a life without suffering, but a life where suffering becomes sacred, because you finally know it's not about you, it's about Him living through you. And when that revelation hits your spirit, when you truly grasp that God will tear down every false thing just to make room for His glory, you won't beg for easy anymore. You'll start praying dangerous prayers. Break me. Strip me. Empty me. Not because you enjoy the pain, but because you know what comes after it. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. 2 Corinthians 4:16. So if you're in a place right now where you feel like everything is falling apart, rejoice. Yes, rejoice. Not in the pain, but in the promise. Because if God is allowing the shaking, it means something unshakable is being born inside you. If He is tearing down, it's only to rebuild. If He is taking away, it's only to give you something better, Himself. Surrender is not defeat. It is the doorway to divine transformation. And the breaking you feel today may be the very thing that births the calling you've been praying for. The fire is real, yes. But so is the gold. And if you let Him, God will use every scar, every tear, every unanswered question, to write a story that brings heaven to earth through your life. The shaking is not the end. It is the beginning of something holy. There comes a moment, and it may be right now, when you must finally decide who owns your life. You, them, or God. Because as long as you sit on the throne of your heart, you will continue to carry burdens that were never yours to bear. You'll keep trying to control outcomes, manipulate results, protect your image. But the gospel was never about self-preservation, it was about self-denial. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Luke 9:23. And that's not a poetic suggestion, it's a divine ultimatum. You cannot be full of God and full of yourself. You cannot walk in resurrection power without crucifying your pride. There must be a death before there can be a rising. But oh, what glory waits on the other side of that surrender. When you finally release the reins, when you finally fall on your face and say, "Not my will, but yours be done," Luke 22:42, something sacred breaks open in the spirit realm. Chains you didn't even know you were wearing begin to shatter. Demons that have lingered for generations start fleeing. Heaven invades. Because God doesn't need your perfection, He needs your permission. He's not asking for polish, He's asking for a yes. A real yes. A painful yes. A yes that costs you something. Abraham gave up Isaac. Moses gave up Egypt. Esther gave up safety. Jesus gave up his life. What will you give up? Your comfort, your timing, your reputation. The cross is not symbolic, it is surgical. It will cut away every part of you that cannot carry glory. And glory is heavy. Glory will crush the flesh, but it will resurrect the spirit. It will silence your ego but ignite your purpose. When you are truly surrendered, you don't chase destiny, destiny begins chasing you. Doors open not because you manipulated them, but because obedience unlocked them. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Matthew 6:33, that's not just a promise, it's a principle. Prioritize Him, and He will prioritize you. But you must choose. The indecision is killing you. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot keep one foot in the world and the other in the kingdom. You cannot walk in authority while tolerating compromise. God is not mocked. Choose this day whom you will serve. Joshua 24:15, because neutrality is rebellion in the spirit. And hesitation is just delayed disobedience. So if you hear His voice today, do not harden your heart. Don't delay. Don't debate. Just surrender. Lay down the weapons of your resistance. You've tried everything else. You've chased the applause, the status, the control. And where has it led you? Empty, wounded, tired. Isn't it time you laid it all down and trusted the one who formed you? He knows the hairs on your head. He knows the number of your days. He knit you together in the womb and planned your calling before the foundation of the world. Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, and before you were born I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5, you are not random. You are not forgotten. You are not too broken. You are a vessel. And vessels were never meant to be admired, they were meant to be filled. So let Him fill you. Let Him wreck every lie that says you're not enough. Let Him silence every voice that says you missed your chance. You didn't. If you're still breathing, you're still called. And if you're still called, He still has a plan. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. But it starts here. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Now. Right now. While your heart is still tender. While the conviction is still fresh. Surrender now, and the Spirit will do what you never could. He will make you new. Not better, new. A new creation. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone, the new is here. 2 Corinthians 5:17, that's not metaphor, it's metamorphosis. A divine transformation that doesn't just clean the surface, but changes the DNA of your soul. And once you taste that kind of freedom, you'll never go back. You'll never again sell your soul for applause or settle for crumbs when you've been given a seat at the King's table. You'll walk with a boldness that scares the enemy and awakens the saints. Because now, your life is no longer about you, it's about Him. Your story becomes a weapon. Your scars become sermons. Your breath becomes a battle cry. So I plead with you, brother. I plead with you, sister. This is not emotion, it's eternity. Your moment is now. Heaven is watching. Hell is trembling. And the Spirit of the living God is knocking at the door of your heart. Will you open? Will you rise? Will you say yes to the fire that purifies, the cross that resurrects, the voice that calls your name in the night? Because God is fighting for you right now. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. He has drawn the line in the sand. He has set His eyes on you. And when God decides to fight for a soul, nothing, no demon, no failure, no past, can stand against Him. The battle is not yours. It never was. The battle belongs to the Lord. The Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still. Exodus 14:14, and when He fights, He wins. Always.